And so we're only 4 days into the new year, and already we have news about countries deciding to remove themselves or rethink the dollar, or aka dump the dollar. President Erdogan in Turkey tells his citizens in order to help the country out, it'd be in your best interest to go under your pillow, grab the dollars, the euros, and gold. And as you tell from today's title, how the baby boomers will lose their retirement nest egg, I want to share with you a couple thoughts as well as some articles on how the next market correction will be catastrophic for a lot of people. Always cash crisis. Working about Venezuela once again. Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 called monetary awareness. All right, we are live. Little midday news update. Wanted to connect and to share with you a couple articles that caught my attention. And based upon last night's discussion about where we're at currently, it's my personal opinion that all the financial information that's shared on a personal note changed or should have changed officially as of yesterday. But unfortunately, the mainstream news will go out and find individuals that will tell you the same old thing, given the fact that we are currently living in a new monetary paradigm based upon all the actions done in this somewhat great economy that we're having, apart from all these emergency measures. So with that being the case, welcome to this RTD midday news stream. Wanted to connect and share some articles and get your thoughts or whatever via the chat right here. And as always, before I dive any further, it's my personal opinion that within the next month or so, we may not be able to connect the way we typically do. So I want to make sure to bring to your attention, if you look beneath this video here, there are some links here up to some alternative media sites, of course, your normal Facebooks and Twitter. But outside of that, there's a couple other alternative sites that I want to encourage you, if you're not already signed up with those, definitely go sign up for a free account and connect with RTD. And so just in case on emergency measures, if I have to broadcast from one of those other sites, that I will be able to do so. So with that being the case, I want to check in with the chat real quick. Won't be long. Got a couple of interviews coming up that I want to definitely make sure you guys stay in tune with. So let me know via chat who's tuning in. And if you have any articles, any stories that came across your pathway that you want to share, connect with those in the chat here. And I'll definitely shine my 2 cents on it or just address it to the community. So we got Bohan Benton says, anyone nervous? We got Jay says, no one bit. Totally prepared. We got the Die 7471 says a change gonna come. Excalibur. We got Loki, a better world. We got Jasmine. We got Nathaniel. We got Chauncey, man, I believe that is. And so yeah, so a couple people tuning in. Let's keep our collective cool, definitely. And so we got St. Louis in the building. Appreciate you guys for joining me this afternoon. So I got I got more articles than I'll be able to get to, but I want to start off with a video that I saw early this morning that really rubbed me wrong, given the fact that it's to be expected from the mainstream news. And so I wasn't surprised at all, but I'm thinking like, wow, like it'd be great to get an alternative spin to that. And of course, at this current moment, because the markets are down, silver's down, everything is down in a sense as far as its valuation in dollar terms. So right now we're going to hear more of the same stuff. And I want to actually start by playing this quick little, let me see if I can grab it and share this little snippet with you if I can. And so this is an interview that came out earlier today. And so we have Chris Hogan here, one of the Dave Ramsey financial advisor type of people. And so the question that she threw out to him was, what should people do at this current moment? And so the title of this was this morning before the markets opened, actually. And it says here, the market will come back, financial expert on investing amid this health scare. And so just listen to the question and listen to the response and how generic. And so once again, anticipate more of this. At the same time, the Federal Reserve has officially weaponized the national currency that we're using to participate in these type of markets as they're crumbling. So I'm going to play this and let me know if you guys can hear it. I'm going to actually try to cut it up so you guys should be able to hear it. But here we go.
Morning to you.
Good morning, Lauren.
Top question you're getting from customers right now. Well, I'm talking to people on my show, and the first and foremost thing I want to know is, should they stop investing? And I want people to hear this. It's so important that we grow our money. We have to make sure.
So right there, should they stop investing? His response is, it's so important that we grow our money. So here we are talking about growing fiat currency. So once again, you'll never hear this distinction on the mainstream news between money and fiat currency. Right now, the fiat currency is being weaponized with all this bailout that's coming, quantitative easing announced, zero interest rates, and all that stuff coming. That's all currency, fiat currency related. And he's talking about now can you have that grow? And so once again, let's find out how he's going to have this fiat currency grow.
That we are prepared and ready for inflation. The cost of things are going to go up. And so we've got to make sure that our money isn't stagnant, but we're investing. So I'm encouraging people to stay the course, understand exactly what it is you're investing in, but understand this is a roller coaster ride, Lauren. There are going to be things that are up and down, but history shows us the market will come back up.
So once again, this roller coaster that we're on, the market, history shows us that the market will come back up. And so outside of him saying the same thing he probably said, I know I've been following this guy for a while to hear his narrative. He said the same thing last correction. And so at what point does the market not come back? At what point, after all this unprecedented monetary policy that's underway right now, like he mentions nothing in this video about what happened yesterday on Sunday by the Federal Reserve going to zero and it issuing quantitative easing. And we witnessed over the last 10 plus years how quantitative easing helped no person on Main Street, but it helped sustain this artificial economy we're in for the last decade. And there hasn't been many of the Main Street average passive investors that's really benefited from this, but yet there still have been trillions siphoned off throughout this last decade due to corporate buybacks, all the big players benefiting from this cheap money. And so he's telling people to stay the course. So once again, this is a licensed individual that's sharing information. So my personal opinion is that continue to follow this methodology here will only lead you to suffer more than you actually have to. And so that's why I believe it's good to have a well-balanced approach to the information you receive. And so let me know in the chat if you guys think that this is still valid information for the current unprecedented monetary times we're in. I'm curious to find out via chat. But I definitely wanted to share this because it's very disturbing to me, but to each his own. We got Justin March. I appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate the love offering there. Let me see in the chat. Let me know your thoughts as far as that advice there. And so I got another article I want to lead into about your 401k, and it's a mainstream article that gives you advice on what to do right now in regards to your 401k. So we got Mike Scott from Corpus Christi, Kenneth in the building. We got 2P. I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure. Alameda, California here. Also, for those that are just tuning in, phone lines will be open tonight for the RTD Live Talk. I want to hear from you guys as to what's going on in your neck of the woods. And I appreciate the individuals that sent pictures and articles and whatnot. I'm going to try to find a way to share that with the community as well. And so, once again, conventional financial advice died. And this is just my opinion. Personally, yesterday, the Federal Reserve killed practical, sound financial advice that was given to us from decades past. Because think about this now. Remember, we were all told that if you set funds aside over time due to something called compounding interest, that you would be a lot better off in the future than you are now. Does that still apply, do you think? Does compound interest in the way that it's been introduced to us? Like, so unless you have skilled knowledge in where to actually put those funds for yourself, do you still think you're going to have that compounding effect? Or, because of these unprecedented monetary times, how about the introduction of compounded inflation? Because now with 0% interest rates, savers are guaranteed losers if you practice that old financial information, in my personal opinion. But I'm going to stop ranting. I want to get right into the articles for the very title of this video here, and it has to do with the banking situation. So I want to pull up an article here that I think you guys, I'm sorry. Let me get to this, the next article in regards to the 401k aspect, and then we'll go from there. But here's an article here from Market Watch, and this was as of this morning, as of 9:51, before the markets open, or as they were opening. So the advice from Brett was that don't look at your 401k. Like right now, due to the market madness, you don't want to look at your 401k. Just forget about it. Don't worry about the losses. And let's see a little bit of what he's going to say. It says, this is a terrifying white knuckle moment for anyone saving for retirement, you think. The health scare crisis has sent portfolios crashing through the floor with a dizzying speed that parallels the worst moments of 2008 crisis and 1987 plunge and even the crash of 1929. You think. So last Monday was historical. This past Friday was historical. Sunday was historical. Think about what this whole week might end up being, historical in nature, in a very unpleasant way. And so let me go down to what he says you should do. What should you do? Investment strategist Jocome Clement, a trustee of the CFA Institutional Research, a foundation, or formerly head of strategy, whatever, says his advice, don't look at your portfolio. Just don't look at it. Just ride this wave as as this gentleman here mentioned. Don't look at your portfolio. Let me show where
That's prepared and ready.
Hold on, I missed it. So let me
Today,
go back here.
When you bank.
So as we're told here, don't look at your portfolio. Well, anyway, so don't look at your portfolio is the advice from this CFA Institute's Research Foundation, formerly head of strategy research at UBS Banks. And it says that, quote, is the most important rule in bear markets. So number one, don't look at your portfolio. It says the best way to invest for most investors is to become a buyer and hold investor. So once again, in unprecedented times and market conditions we haven't seen since some of the worst crises that has happened in the financial realm, they said don't look at it. And so it says buy and hold investors, buy a well-diversified portfolio that meets your needs and then stick to it for a very long time. So basically, if you're a retiree, don't worry about your account, stick to it. Hopefully before you pass away, it'll be back and you can enjoy some of that. If you're young, as I said weeks and weeks ago, you should already have been rethinking the concept of retirement and the way it's been sold to us. It was all a corporate ploy to keep your funds tied into the system and for them to profit off of it at your expense, and all the risk falls on you. But that's just an article here. Let me share this with you. And so what I'm going to do with these news, midday news reports, I just basically find the articles, share them with you in the chat. If you want to dive further, feel free to go for yourself, but I give up. Anyway, next article here. It says, some European banks shut branches to limit the health scare spread. And so this is, it says two of Germany's largest banks, and I'd imagine Germany's largest banks happen to be Commerzbank, which was a part of they were trying to package Commerzbank and Deutsche Bank together and to see if they can help ease some of the pain that's coming with the collapse of these two banks here. So it says the two largest banks has temporarily shut hundreds of branches while Italian lenders have shortened open hours as they grapple with staff shortages and a spread of this health scare. And as always, one thing we can take away about events happening in Europe, because they're, as people have said, they're 10 days ahead of us to where we're currently at now. So if they're 10 days ahead and they have cases throughout the entire continent there, imagine what could come on this side. So that basically says, in my personal opinion, this is not to scare anybody, but this gives us 7 to 10 days to see what's coming on this side. So the question is, if you're concerned or aware, what do? I'll leave it up to you. But it said it would close several hundred of its roughly 1,000 branches in Germany, while the HVB said it plans to close 101 of its branches. And so once you see branches closing across the water, why would those things not happen in this land here? So banks are prepared. Once again, here's the thing. If branches are closed, that means you cannot go in to those branches and get anything of substantial withdrawals. You won't be able to withdraw what you think you will be able to draw. So that means automatically you're going to be forced to just withdraw from ATMs. But then think about it. If there's no staff that's going to be inside to replenish those ATMs, the chance of you being able to get out a substantial amount by that time will be too late. So once again, something to take as a learning lesson. I'll put this in the chat for those that have an interest to read more for themselves. And so let me go back back to the main page here, and I see a super chat there. I apologize for missing those. Micah Robinson says, silver is slammed ATM, but you can find it physical for less than 17 an ounce. I don't trust that you will receive it in order if you ordered online. Micah, very true. So I actually called somebody that, a trusted source on my end today, and he was like, Mike, I sold out last week. I have nothing. And so he was like, as of right now, he's not planning on getting any shipments in because at this current moment, like I said last night, if you're a bullion dealer coin shop, when the price is at these lows, no matter what, you're going to have to put a heavy premium on top of it. And if you can get a hold of something, at this current moment, in my personal opinion, there's no amount that wouldn't be worth spending or redeeming for an ounce of anything if you can get a hold of it. But the question is, can you find it? And my personal opinion is that dealers and bullion coin shops, if they were smart, you would not be selling it to the public right now because we're just at the beginning of what's coming. Therefore, you're going to have to put that much more of a premium on top of it because it comes out of the ground at a lot more than just, what is it right now? It got down to 1177 today, and now it's about 12 something. So, and I don't think they're done. And so Micah says, Chase and Wells have a 3K withdrawal limit in Houston. Really? I appreciate you sharing that information, my friend. A 3K withdrawal limit in Houston. So is that per day? I assume that's per day, hopefully. But we got Incurable Romantic says, my portfolio went under in 2008. I was already retired because there wasn't enough in interest to support me. The principal gradually shrank to nothing. A lot of people like me. Oh, man, that's unfortunate. Pabar says, anyway, you can interview Steve St. Angelo. Russian Saudi oil play is a real destroyer, and no one is talking about it. Pabar, very good point, man. And so as a result of this Russian Saudi oil situation, as I mentioned last night, anticipate the U.S. responding, taking sides with Saudi. If Russia decides to do more of what it's doing, they will consider that, unfortunately, an act of war, and the U.S. will get involved. So amongst all those healthcare crises, there will be the possibilities of a war in that region based upon the oil situation. So something that it's unfortunate, but it's real. So Andrew P. says, JP Bullion has 300 minimum order right now, 300 minimum. And the thing is, Andrew, will they be shipping right now, or do you have to wait like most bullion dealers? So just something worth taking into consideration is that even if you place an order now, it may not be coming in a timely manner. And then also, I got wind in my area. I'm not sure if this is confirmed yet, but the same person I spoke with earlier mentioned that the post office, once this martial law is declared within the next 72 hours, in my opinion, the United States Postal Service will not be delivering, FedEx won't be delivering, and Amazon won't be able to deliver. So keep in mind, if you on back order for metals, who's going to be delivering it? Possibly. So something to think about. Anyway, let's keep moving. Let's get to the next one. So here is something that will become we're going to hear a lot more of this. And this happens to do with the pending bailouts. And so U.S. airlines, how many ever we have in this country are suffering big time right now. And here's the saddest part about this. Corporations, for the last 10 years, they've been borrowing at astronomically low borrowing cost just to sustain themselves. And along the way, all the executives, all the board members, all the higher ups in those entities have been getting paid well beyond what they might be worth. Therefore, these airlines here should have known that the next recession was coming, and they should have been saving something to weather the storms themselves. But all corporations right at this current moment have all been heavily binged upon debt. Therefore, they're in need of more debt. So bailouts are coming for every corporation that's listed, every publicly traded company at this current moment. Even like Apple's sitting on a large amounts of cash. I would imagine that they're going to get a bailout too to preserve some of their own cash. So once again, there will be no amount of currency. There will be no limit to the amount of currency brought into existence just to weather this storm. Nevertheless, we pay any of that back. So when I see articles like this, don't look at your 401k. It really concerns me. But anyway, it says U.S. airlines seek more than $50 billion in government assistance as this health scare roils businesses. So 50 billion. How do you know 50 billion will be enough? It won't. It will not be, because that's 50 billion just to get by for this quarter, perhaps, or maybe even get into next quarter. But if this thing is prolonged, which I think it more likely will be, the ripple effects and the long-term consequences will be well more than 50 billion for the airline industry. And so what about the cruise lines? What about all the national theme parks? And, hell, I want to bail out. Hell, I'm sure everybody in the chat would like a bailout as well, because once they bail you out, this is all she wrote. Ain't no recovery after this bailout, in my personal opinion. We got Midas Man 17 says, keep up the good work. My friend, I appreciate you for the support, and I appreciate the love offering. Says JP Bullion and Provident Metals both have $2.99 minimum order. Redeem silver for Bitcoin in the future. Creamy Rican. Do it at your own risk, my friend. I don't give financial advice. I just give monetary opinions. At this current moment, I'd rather personally be physical as I can, as opposed to in digital illusions that will rise. Think about this. Right now, there's going to be so much liquidity provided to prop up everything. I would be willing to say your metals are going to be long-term and your cryptos are going to be short-term, because right now we're about to hit a real, I don't think we've really hit the crypto winter again. Like, what's going on now is pales compared to what's coming, because there'll be no bailing out of cryptocurrency companies. And so all the projects that are underway right now, we're going to see who's built to last and who's not. And so there's a total of 2,000 cryptocurrency projects in existence, maybe even more. The ones that are centralized, the ones that have an office in New York, and those that have offices scattered through somewhere, they got a whole team precisely working on those projects. They're going to probably more than likely go belly up, because they won't have the funds to sustain themselves. But the decentralized currencies that are community sourced and community supported, the ones that have been tested through several winters already, those will be the ones that I believe that will weather the storm. So just my opinion. Michael Green Sr., I appreciate that love offering, my friend. Says, would you trade gold for silver, taking advantage of the high ratio? Brian, great question. In this current moment, my answer would be no, because we haven't even started. Like, what we're seeing now are still tremors, in my opinion, and compared to what will be coming. And so silver, to me, as we witness from how it's being attacked, it is an outright attack on silver. And it has to do with all those contracts that need to be covered, or everybody need to reposition themselves to not take as many losses when it comes to all those paper contracts that cannot be delivered upon. While JP Morgan is still, to my knowledge, is sitting on the largest hoard or savings of silver. So JP Morgan is the number one too big to fail bank in the US. And if they're sitting physical, I'm gonna sit physical with them as long as they physical, because they got plans for the silver afterwards. While all the other nations are getting gold, JP Morgan apparently has the most silver, and it's not by accident. They knew what was coming. So once again, yeah, that's just my 2 cents. So anyway, I'm rambling too much. Let me get back to the chat. I appreciate those love offers here. Got a couple more articles I want to share with you, and then we will dive down and get ready for later on this evening to do a live stream where I want to hear from you directly. So here's another article, and this is Wall Street dives, S&P sheds $2 trillion in value. So it was $2 trillion last week or the week before, $2 trillion this week. And so here's the biggest takeaway from when you see articles like this. It says sheds $2 trillion, but nothing is ever lost. It's only simply transferred. So for the hodlers, those who's been holding, as the article said, as a video said, buy and hold, those type of people, they're the ones that are being transferred from into the people who are shorting these markets. Mind you, Goldman Sachs, I got an article here of Goldman Sachs. They've been telling people a long time ago what was coming. So you better believe they had some game plans in place to take advantage of these losses. So for the weak hands, those that are practicing the long-term sound financial advice that was considered practical pre-crises time frame, are the ones that this is being transferred from. And so it says S&P companies lost more than $2 trillion in value for the first few minutes today. So basically what this showed me is that all the actions done yesterday, which was unheard of, which has never occurred in this magnitude in the 107 years of the Federal Reserve being in existence, They've never dropped this significantly in a single day, and it not respond positive in the markets like it did today. So the question I would throw out to Jerome Powell is, if it didn't work yesterday, what will work? So that's why I'm saying that there's no amount of currency that they will be willing to bring into existence to bail out. Therefore, it's going to be hard for them not to find their 2% inflation that they can't seem to find. So without even reading further, savers are losers in this new paradigm because the dollar, aka the Federal Reserve note, has been weaponized. And what I mean by weaponized, that means that it's no longer a tool to use to support. It is a weapon to sustain the too big to fail banks. And so let me share this article here with you in the chat, and I'll let you, if you're interested, dive further for yourself. Feel free to do so. Mark W. says, according to Big Swear, there is no silver left to be purchased. The window may have closed. Glad I stacked in 2014. If that is true, then, like I've been mentioning before, when some does come back into the hands of bullion dealers and coin dealers, they will not be putting it back into your hands. So, and this goes back to what I said years ago. When things hit the fan, once all this liquidity is provided for, we're going to see numbers like we've never seen before on the screen. And I said this last week's video about the goal is for the Federal Reserve to try to throw as much currency as possible to ultimately make sure the derivatives don't go belly up. And if it's 1.2 quadrillion, that means at a minimum they're going to have to bring somewhere near that type of number into existence just to make good on all those side bets, which means that if we get some astronomical amount of currency brought into existence, it will not take much weight on your part to be a recipient of some of that. So metals are sponges. They're going to absorb all this liquidity brought into existence. But it's what you do with that sponge after all this unfolds, God willing, to where you'll be able to then squeeze out some of that liquidity into whatever that new currency is going to be. So right now we're witnessing the end of this current paradigm of monetary manipulation as far as the fiat currencies. They're all going to be, it's a race to negativity right now. It's a race to see who can print the most eventually to prop up their governments, while I believe China and Russia will be rolling out something new within the next, as of right now, it might be the next couple of months. Just my 2 cents there. And so let me get back to some articles. Okay, a couple more articles here that I'm going to dial back. And so I just wanted to share with you what's happening in the news right now. So here's another article, which lets you know that it's not even started yet. Here we have IMF chief calls for more fiscal stimulus to limit the damage of this health scare. So not to solve, not to help find a cure, but to limit the damage of. And the damage that's being done is all corporations are being exposed now for having been recipients of all this cheap credit for the last 10 years. And from that, all the wealthy individuals that are on boards have profited heavily. And so now they're in need of more of that. So it says, this is as of today. It says International Monetary Fund Managing Director Christine Lina on Monday called on governments to take additional fiscal stimulus measures and to keep in close contact to stop the health scare from causing long-term economic damages. Too late. It says she said the IMF stands ready to mobilize its $1 trillion in lending capacity to aid its 189 member countries. So once again, what's $1 trillion? The Federal Reserve just promised that in a day. So once again, at this current moment, what we thought the word quadrillion was a lot. I think they're going to create a new word. In totality, all this creation of liquidity that's going to come about, I think eventually they're going to introduce a new number. Now, somebody let me know in the chat real quick. What comes after a quadrillion? Because a quadrillion is a one with, was it 16 zeros, if I'm not mistaken? What comes after a quadrillion? First of all, I don't think we'll make it to that, but they're going to try it. So, yeah. 1 trillion is several countries. You have distributed this 1 trillion. Yeah, 1 trillion. Come on now. We were in the trillions last crises. Trillion is old. One quintillion. Okay. So quintillion, a quadrillion, quintillion. A quintillion. Okay, let me, just for the sake of figuring out what a 18 zeros. How many zeros are in a quintillion? Oh my goodness. A quintillion is 18 zeros. Wow. Okay, so this is a little side note here, but I thought I would just put this on the screen because this is interesting. I typed in, it says, how do you say 100? I think this is quintillion. Okay, no, I'm gonna leave it alone. I ain't gonna go there. That's take too long. Here's another one. And so it says the Fed's future is already here as U.S. joins zero rate world. And so President Trump was very adamant in saying that he was very unhappy, but he's happy now, according to yesterday's press conference. And so if he's happy, once again, I put out there for those, I think in the last video, if you haven't, check it out. But one of my concerns is the conflict of interest between the Trump empire and his son, who's heading the Trump Foundation, which is a conglomerate of about 1,500 entities, 500 entities, hotels, businesses, whatever. Think about this. Every president leaves better than they came into office. If he gets 2 terms, his empire will probably tenfold its value in real estate property and everything else. And so that's why he could be happy. It's not because negative rates is going to help us in any form or fashion. It's going to rob you, but it's going to help him because he gets to, his son who heads his corporation right now, since he's on this vacation, call himself being president, his children right now will get to re-up and to refinance all that Trump empire debt and get off like a fat cat. Keep that in mind. But that's way off course. So let me get back into the chat a little bit and then go get ready to dial back. I just want to check in, share some articles, let you know what's going on, and we go from there. It says Google comes after. What else we got here? Quint means 5 or 5th, so how does that work? I don't know. I'm just going upon what you guys share with me real quick. But one thing I did see, and let me make it easier. So I typed in what came up next. It says quintillion. There's actually some numbers here. 1,000 raised to the power of 6. So yeah, there's once you type in quintillion, you get a couple different numbers, but you get the point. We're gonna witness history in all forms and fashions, in my personal opinion. For those that are tuning in that might be watching right now, beneath me you see some social media platforms that I think you guys should definitely sign up for if you haven't already, because my personal opinion is that I may have another month on the YouTube before it's shut down, because once martial law is declared, I'd imagine the powers that be would want to control the narrative of what's going on, and they don't want anything to conflict with what they're sharing with the public. So make sure you guys scroll to the bottom of this video in the description and set up an account with all these, and in particular Float, because I'll definitely be sharing stuff on Float as I already do. So, and then also I'm going to be trying to set up a direct stream from the rethinkingthedollar.com blog. So make sure you guys check in with that and go from there. But let me check out 2 more articles, and then we're going to dial back. So these middays are just designed to give you what's in the news at this current moment, what comes across my attention. So here we got Goldman Sachs. Goldman says U.S. growth will shrink. You think 5% next quarter, and here's how low stocks could go. And so it gives a little information if you click on that. And so once again, 5%, that's just a forecast. And if things globally, as this contagion spreads, both financially as well as with this health situation, 5%, that's a very nice number. So that's why I don't take that as being the case. And then let's check out the investing.com real quick. I want to check out the commodities. And so let me check out and see what's happening in real time. Actually, here's a better website that gives us some actual colors. So this is what's happening in the U.S. And these are the different sectors. We got technology, we got services, we got basic materials, we got healthcare, We got industrial goods, we got utilities, we got consumer goods, we got financial. So right now, there's not much green on here. And so once again, Google's down 10%, Facebook down 11%, Microsoft, and these are the big players, and they're all entertainment based. Sad. Amazon's down. So once again, if you know what you're doing, you know how to play this game that's rigged against the average person, then this is an opportunity. So there's opportunity in all this red if you know what you're doing. But if you're not of the kind that know what you're doing directly, then you might want to, as I mentioned before, do the best you can to sit out on the sideline, watch everything unfold, and then get back in when things are at their lowest point. But given effect, by the end of this week, the Federal Reserve might directly start buying these things, so they might be in the green. But then again, you got to ask yourself, what are you actually getting back into if they're not, the price of these assets are no longer from the average investor. They're propped up by central banks. And that means for all those, when it's time, especially for retirees, when it's time to get out, who's going to be buying other than the central banks that's also buying them as well? And how are they going to buy them? They're going to be creating out of thin air. So anywhere it go, there's going to be a situation where inflation is beyond a problem, because they can't continue to create currency at a time where there are no real ways of discovering true value of anything in this magnitude right now. So, the Dow can go back up to 90,000, but if it's all owned by the Federal Reserve, what is that really worth to you? That means that everything in the streets is probably going to reflect the price valuations that's artificial as well, which means inflation. So yeah, right now it's the race to the bottom. And so that's why don't look at the prices of tangible assets at this current moment. It's all about the actual in your hand ownership of them, and let everything blow through. And then when true price discovery comes back, according to the international markets, then we'll have a better idea as to what's going to be the price of an ounce of whatever, especially an ounce of gold. Because once China recovers, they're not going to be accepting treasuries after what we're about to witness now. So it's good to say that don't pay attention to the price as always. Pay attention to the weight itself, or the possession of it in your possession, preferably. And so that is all she wrote for today. I'm about to get ready to dial back. I just want to check in, share with you what some of the primary stories. I'll put them in the chat over here. Make sure you guys go check them out for yourself. Read through them thoroughly if you like, to better understand what's going on. But I started this off, and I wanted to do this one because of this video here. And let me go back to it, where a financial expert, and I'm not saying, I don't fault any financial expert, because they have a job to do as well. But I think they're doing people injustice by telling them to do the same things that no longer applies to this current monetary paradigm, because they're telling them to buy and hold still, and you're holding at the same time that central banks are looking to rob savers. And so with that being the case, I'm gonna dial back, but I just want to share with you based upon this. I'm curious to find out your thoughts on this. I'm gonna put this video in the chat so that you can check it out for yourself. Let me get out of here. So you can check it out for yourself, and let me know in the chat. What do you guys think about this advice? Is this advice still sound advice in your opinion? I'm curious to find out. So with that being the case, I appreciate everybody taking time to join me. Let's connect again later today for a live talk, and I want to hear your voice. Give me a call. Let me know what's going on in your neck of the woods. If you've enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. Share this information. Share the articles, whatever you got to do. And then make sure you guys connect with me right here. All that's beneath this video here. Be blessed, be safe, and I will see you guys later this evening.